go the extra mile in providing this type of information. So money or purpose, money or being a part of something bigger, what's more motivating? Well, interestingly enough, I found the MIT study also found something very similar to this. There were 3 factors of motivation looking at that performance pyramid. These are the 3 main things that I'd love for you to focus on. Number 1 is affiliation. We'll talk about that. Number 2, mastery, growth. Number 3, purpose. Now, what I have found is that within your organization, if you were able to implement these 3 things and also work on the others in the performance pyramid, you will actually have a higher performing team than if you only focused on money alone. Now, can you remove money from the sales equation? You actually can. I have 3 or 4 sales teams that are salary only, but the culture is phenomenal. They're not doing it for commission. They're not working just for commission. So let's talk about these 3 things in detail. Number 1, affiliation. Salespeople are more passionate when they're involved in the process. What does that mean? All too often, as sales managers, owners, publishers, whatever, station managers, what we do is we create programs for the sales people to sell. We come up with things for the sales team to sell. Then they come into a sales meeting and we just gloriously expound upon them the cool things that they're going to go out and sell. Very rarely do we actually involve salespeople in the process. Now, salespeople are people too, right? The interesting piece is very rarely we don't take their opinion or their considerations into the mix when we're creating or researching new products and services. Now, one of the interesting pieces about this is that younger sales reps want to feel like they are a part of the team. They don't like being told what to do. Oh, Ryan, they just need to do it my way or the highway. That's just not how it's going to work out. It's just not going to work out for you if that's your attitude. Instead, what I have found is if you make them a part of the process, you ask for their ideas, you listen for their ideas, you actually give them some autonomous tasks. The MIT study, rather than focusing on affiliation, focused on autonomous tasks like research and development, letting them go and do other things beyond the sales job, be a part of the entire process. Younger salespeople want to feel like they're a part of the team. This is even in the smallest details. I was working with a group of people, and they had T-shirts made up for the entire team, which said something like, Team Jones or something like that on it. One of the salespeople was out on sick leave. They came back and they didn't receive a T-shirt. In a quarterly review, one of the main things that they brought up that they were unhappy about was that no one gave them a T-shirt. It wasn't that their paycheck was on time and didn't bounce. It wasn't that the power was on. It wasn't that we were paying for their cell phone bill. It wasn't they had a great computer to work at. It wasn't they're working for a wonderful publication. It was that darn T-shirt. Now, you might be sitting there and you might say, Ryan, here's the thing, man. Get over it. Life isn't fair. Grow up. Hold on for a second. Let's just think about this. Some of us parents did a really bad thing in raising this group of millennials. Remember? This was the generation of timeouts. This was the generation when 2 soccer teams would play. At the end, no matter the score, everybody would win. Or even if a score occurred, nothing would be put up on the scoreboard. The score would end 0-0, and everybody would celebrate. It was a generation of helicopter parenting. Now, whether you agree with my thoughts on parenting or not, and I'm not going one way or the other, I just want you to understand that this generation was raised differently. Now, you might say, well, hey, I didn't raise my kids that way, so the rest of them need to get over it. You're going to have a hard time motivating millennials if that's your attitude. Now, the other piece is they want to provide new ideas. Okay, Ryan, their ideas aren't any good. Listen, guys, I understand. I work with a lot of millennial salespeople. If you'll follow me on this, if you'll believe in this a little bit, you're really going to have some good success. Now, not everybody born after 1980, falls into this sort of group of individuals that requires this type of motivation. But what you're going to find is the vast majority of people in general, including the millennials, will find better motivation and higher performance if you actually follow this model and understand that them being a part of the team, them being heard, and you focus on affiliation, you're going to see higher performance. Next is mastery. And this comes directly from the MIT study, mastery. This is all about personal development being critical to long-term success. Now, some of you might see this on the screen, always be training, and think that this is slightly self-serving for me because I'm in the corporate training business. And I don't mean it to be. What I want you to understand is that people always have a quest to be better. Very rarely do I actually ever find someone that doesn't want to learn more or be better at their job. I am surprised as recently as 2 weeks ago, I went to work with a major organization. One of the salespeople there said, "Ryan, we have not had sales training in 15 years, and I've been here 17. Well, that's interesting to me because sales training isn't that expensive, and it's an investment in your people. Now, to that end, what else can you do? Send them to a skill path seminar on being a better manager, being a manager one day. Develop growth paths within your organization. What is a growth path? A growth path is a path of growth. When someone enters your organization, what's their next job going to be? For example, a sales assistant eventually should become a salesperson, who should become a sales manager, who would become the general manager over the course of time. That's a growth path. In the production department, you might have an intern that becomes a junior designer, that becomes a senior designer, that becomes the art director. There's a growth path that needs to occur. Organizations that have these structures in place, where people are always being trained, always see higher performance, always see less churn or less turnover, because mastery is very, very important, not only to this millennial generation, but also is important to people as well. The same individual that reported to me that they hadn't had sales training in something like 15 years reported back 2 weeks later back to me and said, "Ryan, the things that we learned were mission critical to our success. I can't wait to learn more, and I find it very encouraging that my boss is going to engage you further." It's interesting to me, a very interesting note, that mastery is one of the 3 critical factors in motivating your salespeople. All right, the third is purpose. Now, purpose is a little bit harder to define. Okay, you might remember the Rick Warren book, A Purpose-Driven Life. Okay, what was that all about? It was about finding your purpose. Without purpose, profit is lost in the shadows. So how do you define purpose? Well, what purpose is basically helping an employee understand what does their contribution mean to the company. So you're out selling. What does that mean? See, very often selling equals a paycheck, okay? And that's all the further we take it as sales managers or general managers or whatever. We don't actually help that salesperson understand, or production person or accounting person understand what purpose they really play within the organization. And so how do you establish that? Well, you begin with soft conversations. What are soft conversations? Soft conversations are non-formal conversations, meaning you're not bringing somebody in, okay, and sitting them down. Today, we're going to talk about your purpose, okay? That type of thing doesn't work out. That's why when I'm coaching with somebody, I try to help them find a way that they can better communicate with their team without making it some formalized process. Purpose is really helping them understand, what does your contribution mean to our total organization? Let me give an example. It wasn't that long ago that I sat down with a salesperson and said, do you understand that your ability to be the best is not about a paycheck? That just is an off product. It's a nice off product. But your ability to be a superstar is about your personal growth within this organization. I want you to be the sales manager one day. You may not realize this, but Jane in accounting or John in accounting, because of what you do on the street, they're able to send their kids to the school that they want to go to, or they're able to pay the rent on their home, or whatever it is. That's because of you, because you have a purpose. You have a place. You are a contributor to this organization. Now remember something. It wasn't that long ago in a political campaign for president that one of the things that the Obama team did is they found a way to be able to help the younger generation know that they could actually make a change. They could have a change in the political structure. And that was the whole nexus of that campaign, was getting these millennials to wrap their head around they had a purpose. They could invoke change. Did it work? Absolutely it worked. Now, whether you like the president or not is not the point. What I want you to understand is they tapped into a fundamental core of motivating, and that is helping people find a purpose, helping them know that they're a greater part of the team. Now, I picked out those 3 for you because the reason I did is because not only because of the MIT study, which I'd love for you to research more, but also because if you look at this performance pyramid, it can be slightly overwhelming. You might say, oh my gosh, Ryan, where do I start with all of this? For me, I like to focus in on 3 things. I want to divide that up over 3 months, because if you try to do them all at one time, it's going to be really difficult. So within those 3, what should you understand? First of all, you need to understand that your success as a manager is not by chance. It's the choices that you make, watching this video today, implementing this plan within your team, and creating a plan. Next, I want to encourage you to always be interviewing. Very rarely, the only time you interview for new staff is when you need new staff. So not only are you missing potentially great people that you should be finding a place for, but also you get yourself into a crisis. The other piece, and this is a little psychological, so you may not like it, I always interview a lot of salespeople so that my sales team that's over here sees interviews happening. So they know, listen, I don't have this guy over a barrel.